How to mix your beats. Disclaimer, there is no right or wrong way of mixing, and if people try to tell you otherwise, they are wrong. But in this video, I'm going to show you the way I mix my beats, which isn't the only way, it's just the way I do it. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is sound selection. In order to get your desired mix, you have to make sure your sound selection is on point, especially with your drums. An example is if you have a bad kick, it can mess up a lot of things since the kick is the driving force of the track. So what I look for in a good kick is if it has a good punch to it and if the loudest point is at the start. So as you can see with this kick, right at the start it has that good punch. Whereas a bad kick doesn't really have that initial good punch and kind of fades off pretty fast after, as you can hear. So now I'm going to show you what a good kick sounds like and a bad kick. First I'll play the bad kick. Now here's what the good kick sounds like. Makes a huge difference in the bounce of the track and just gives it more life. Another thing to keep in mind when looking for sounds is to use sounds that sound full. Great example is Rhodes. I used it in this beat, but it's not the best example because I took out frequencies to make it sound like something different. But and other examples are piano, strings, brass, guitar, basically any instrument that involves strings. And the reason why you should pick these full sounds is because you typically don't want your mix to sound thin or like you're playing it out of Thomas Edison's gramophone. But it's all up to you and what kind of sound you like. Those are just the sounds I like to use when I want that really full, warm sound. The second thing I want to talk about is balancing. So how I determine if a mix is sounding good is if there's fullness in the low end and clarity in the high end. If there's too much low end, it can take away from the high end and vice versa. So I like to go to my lowest frequency sounds and make sure it's fitting nice in the mix, which again comes from sound selection. Now this is all by ear, but with my bass, I like when there's a little bit of the low mids in the bass because then you can hear it better on iPhone speakers and other low quality speakers. So here's what the 808 and kick look like on the EQ when I just play it solo. Covering most of the sub, the bass, the low mid, and some of the mid because I boosted it right here. I kind of always do this with my 808s, but then again, you wouldn't have to do this if you had good sound selection, which I didn't for this 808, but we made it work. And for the high end, I'd say it's the hi-hat, lead, and clap covering that end of the frequency spectrum, and you will hear it sounds nice and clear in the mix. So as you saw right there, it's nice and clear. Now play the low ends, the lowest frequency instruments with the highs, and you'll see like it's basically almost completely full. Another thing I want to say about balancing is that only one instrument at a time can be the loudest track in the mix. So the loudest instrument should be whatever is the focal point of the beat/song in that moment. An example is that this pluck in the verse is what I want people to focus on when it changes from the hook to the verse right here. then for the hook, I want the 808 and the keys to be the loudest thing. So the third thing I want to talk about, and probably the last thing, is testing out your mix. Now, I think there are many ways to test out your mix, but the four most important ones are your car speakers, your regular speakers, which is like if you got KRKs or other studio speakers, those are good to test on, iPhone speakers, and headphones. It's important to hear your mix on all these types of audio devices because it can reveal a lot of cool things about your mix that you weren't able to hear before. For example, when I play this mix in my car, I noticed initially that the hi-hats were way too high, so I slightly adjusted them and it made a huge difference. It's a simple tip that you probably already knew, but it's also important to remember when you want that perfect mix. Alright guys, that's it for today. If you have any other questions, let me know in the comments or feel free to hit me up on Instagram at Wonderless Beats. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.